Long before I walked down the aisle to marry Shenzai, I knew everything. He had once loved a girl fiercely and wholeheartedly, a love that had burned bright enough to be the talk of their social circle for a long time. That girl was Jung Yoon, proud, unyielding, and born with a sharp sense of dignity. She could never bear the subtle contempting condescension from the wealthy Shen family, who always looked down on her ordinary family background. Without a second thought, she had turned around and ended their years-long relationship cleanly, leaving without looking back. It was during that empty, vulnerable period after the breakup that Shenzai finally noticed me, the quiet girl who had always stood not far away. Watching him silently for years, our journey from secret love to formal relationship, then to engagement and marriage, was smoother than anyone could have imagined. There were no quarrels, no misunderstandings, no turbulent twists and turns. Everyone said I was the most suitable match for Shenzai. Punctual, sensible, well-behaved, never making trouble, never throwing tantrums, and utterly devoted to him. I thought I had walked out of the shadow of unrequited love, that I had finally waited for the person I had loved silently for more than a decade. I truly believed that smooth road would stretch on forever, leading us to a peaceful, warm lifetime together. But all my illusions were shattered completely on our wedding night, the night that was supposed to be the sweetest beginning of our marriage. Heavy rain lashed against the windows of our wedding villa, thunder rumbling low in the distance, the night wind cold and piercing. Just as the wedding guests dispersed and the house fell into quiet silence, hurried, frantic knocks echoed sharply at the front door. I turned my head in confusion, and before I could move to open it, Shenzai had already stepped forward quickly. When he pulled the door open, a soaking wet woman stood trembling in the pouring rain, holding a frail, feverish child tightly in her arms. Her hair stuck messily to her pale cheeks, her clothes soaked through. Her whole body shaking from cold and fear. It was Jung Yoon, the ex-girlfriend he had loved with all his youth. Her voice was hoarse and broken, filled with desperate helplessness as she looked up at Shenzai, tears mixing with rainwater streaming down her face. Shenzai, please, I'm begging you. Our child is burning with a high fever. I can't do anything to save him. I have no other place to go. Shenzai's expression changed the moment he saw her and the sick child. All the common tenderness he'd shown me all day faded away in an instant, replaced by undisguised worry and panic. He stepped forward into quick strides, his voice soft and reassuring, the same tone he had never used for anyone but her back then. Don't be afraid. Leave it to me. I won't let anything happen to the child. Without a single hesitation, he planned to turn and leave with Jung Yoon and the sick little boy. Just as he was about to step into the heavy rain, he paused abruptly, glanced back at me standing alone in the warm, bright wedding room, and seemed to suddenly remember that today was our wedding day, that I was his newly wedded wife. He quickly restrained the restlessness in his heart, walked back to me in a hurry, and spoke in a deliberately gentle, apologetic tone, trying to soothe my emotions. Man, wait for me at home obediently. He'll be back soon. The child is innocent and critically ill. I can't turn a blind eye and leave them to suffer alone. He stood there quietly, not saying a word. No tears, no tantrums, no unreasonable accusations. He just turned around, took a thick warm coat from the hanger beside the door, and handed it gently to him. The wind is cold. Put this on so you don't catch a cold. A flash of guilt crossed Shenzai's face, but it only lasted for a fleeting second. The desperate cries of the sick child and Jung Yoon's broken sobs were loud to urgent. They instantly drowned out my quiet consideration and silent grievance. He didn't have an extra second to comfort the most well-behaved, worry-free wife beside him, and hurriedly turned and rushed into the rain with the coat in his hand, following Jung Yoon into the dark night. I stood motionless in the empty living room, the warm wedding atmosphere fading away little by little. In my hand, I still held the soft towel I had prepared specially to wipe his hair. No one would have guessed that Shenzai, who was cold, indifferent, and unapproachable in front of outsiders, who never showed any softness to others, had a little known gentle habit. He loved leaning quietly by my legs, letting me wipe his thick, hard hair for him after bathing. His hair was thick and coarse, hard to air dry, if not wiped carefully. Every time he would squat there silently, looking up at me with soft, dependent eyes, without saying a word, yet easily melting all my heart's defenses. After wiping his hair, I would always look at my handiwork with a smile. His hair would stand straight one by one, looking just like a cute little hedgehog. He would glance in the mirror, then smirk and rub his head lightly against my cheek, acting coquettously like a child. Will you dare to tease me again next time? I would laugh and shake my head repeatedly, promising again and again. Tonight, I had specially prepared this towel for him. I had even worried that the spare towel in the new house was too thin and uncomfortable for him to use. Now I secretly breathed a faint sigh of relief. It was fine, he was not at home, and I didn't have to struggle over such trivial things anymore. Shenzai did not come back all night. The whole villa was dead silent, only the sound of the endless rain outside the window echoing in my ears. I lay listlessly on the cold sofa, waiting hour after hour, until the sky gradually turned pale with the first light of dawn. Finally, I heard the faint sound of the door opening. I rubbed my sleepy eyes and sat up in a daze, calling out softly in a hoarse voice Yuri back. Shenji's body stiffened almost imperceptibly the moment he heard my voice, a trace of unnatural guilt flashing across his tired face. He walked over quickly, his palms warm and dry from staying in the heated hospital all night. He gently draped a thick blanket over my shoulders, his movements gentle, but he never took the initiative to mention a single word about Jung Yoon or the sick child. He pretended nothing important had happened, acting as if he had just gone out for a trivial errand. I knew you must have not eaten anything all night, so I brought you breakfast on the way back. I glanced casually at the breakfast box in his hand. There were steamed buns and warm millet porridge inside, but every portion was only half eaten, obviously left over from what he had shared with Jung Yoon and the child at the hospital. I gently pushed his hand away, shook my head lightly, and said calmly, "I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat." Shenzai did not force me, silently put the breakfast box on the coffee table, then sat down beside me, his voice slow and sincere, trying to explain and make up for his absence all night. Man, I really had no idea the child existed all these years. I have long put all my feelings for Jung Yoon in the past. She begged me so bitterly last night. I simply cowed and bare to ignore a dying child. I only did what I had to do, and from now on, he will have nothing to do with us anymore. I looked up at his face, the face I had loved and admired for more than 10 years, the face that had appeared in every one of my late-night dreams. New as cold on the surface, but soft-hearted inside, unable to bear seeing anyone suffer or endure hardship. It was precisely this rare kindness and softness of his that I had fallen in love with deeply. I had always known clearly that his softness would never be exclusive to me alone. I reached out slowly, wrapped my arms around his neck, and leaned lightly against his chest. The familiar scent of his body wash surrounded me, fleetingly soothing my restless heart. "I'm not angry that you went to help her," I said softly, my tone calm and rational. "I'm only angry that you didn't send me a single message to tell me you were safe all night. Shenzai, I have seen how you loved someone with all your heart, and I know exactly what you look like when you don't love someone. We are husband and wife now. Can you trust me a little more? And don't keep everything hidden alone?" Shinjori's arms tightened suddenly around my back, his emotions surging. A delicate, cherished kiss fell gently on the ends of my hair, full of remorse and tenderness. "I love you," he whispered hoarsely. Shenzai rarely said such straightforward, passionate love words, Even when our feelings were at their deepest and most intimate, he would never speak sweetly. At most, when his emotions overwhelmed him, he would hold me tightly and say in a low voice, "Don't leave me." After saying those 3 words, he had to rush off to the company for work, leaving me alone in the empty villa again. I yawned sleepily, planning to go back to the bedroom to catch up on sleep. But just as I turned around, the doorbell rang sharply and urgently. I checked the surveillance screen at the door. It was Jong Yoon. Her hair was messy and disheveled, sweat rolling down her forehead. Her breathing rapid and hurried, clearly having run all the way here in a panic without stopping to rest. Without hesitation, I opened the door directly. When she saw it was me instead of Shenzai, her face instantly turned cold, her lips pressing tightly together with undisguised hostility. "I'm looking for Aze," she said coldly, without even a polite greeting. "He's not at home now. If you have anything urgent, you can tell me, and I will pass it on to him in full," I replied calmly, maintaining my demeanor as the legal wife. Jong Yoon lifted her eyelids lazily, glanced at me up and down with disdain. Her tone sharp and mocking. "He is the child's father. And who are you to meddle in our family's affairs?" She turned and left without waiting for my reply, her steps firm and resolute. I stood frozen in place for a long time before slowly regaining my senses. My hands trembled slightly as I picked up my phone and sent Shin Zhangdai a message to tell him Jung Yoon had come. He only replied with 3 cold words. I know, for no reason at all. Staring at those plain 3 words on the screen, a strong sense of unease surged up from the bottom of my heart, spreading all over my body. I immediately asked someone to inquire about the hospital where Jong Yoon's child was staying, then drove there alone without delay. When I hurried to the end of the hospital corridor, I saw Shenzai and Jong Yoon standing face to face, their atmosphere heavy and oppressive. I noticed Shen Shei's expression was extremely complicated, full of struggle and pain. I quickened my pace to walk over, ready to speak and ask about the child's condition, but Jong Yoon's bitter, broken words reached my ears first. "Don't act like you care so much. If it weren't for Young being seriously ill and dying, I would never lower myself to come beg you again. I raised this child bit by bit, feeding him milk with my own hands, watching him grow day by day. You never did a single thing as a father. Yet, you want to claim him easily now?" She wiped the tears streaming down her cheeks, her voice choked with endless exhaustion and regret. "I watch him getting weaker and thinner day by day, and I can do nothing to save him. I regret it so much. If only I was his mother, he wouldn't have to suffer from this terrible illness." Jung Yoon's shoulders trembled violently, hot tears mixed with cold sweat dripping heavily onto the cold hospital floor. Shen Shi's voice was low and hoarse, helpless and tormented. "There will always be a way. Don't give up hope." "What way is there?" Jong Yoon laughed bitterly, her eyes red and swollen. "I've taken him to all the best hospitals in the country. I've tried every method I can find. I really have no other choice." The one strong woman had completely collapsed, lowering her head in despair. Shenzai slowly raised his hand hanging by his side, wanting to comfort her, but he forced himself to stop just before touching her shoulder. Such scenes of helpless mothers and distressed relatives were common in hospitals, attracting no attention from passers-by. Standing not far away, I saw every detail clearly. I saw the struggle, the pain, the heartache written all over Shin Shui's face. My heart turned cold in an instant. I turned around quietly and walked out of the ward corridor, waiting silently downstairs for a long time, waiting until they finished their conversation, waiting until their turbulent emotions gradually calmed down. Then, I bought a set of building blocks that children liked, carried them, and knocked gently on the ward door. Ni Shumhai saw me first, immediately stepped forward with a tired expression to explain. Young's condition suddenly became unstable just now, so I rushed over to check on him. He smiled faintly, reached out and touched his wrist gently. I was worried about you and the child too, so I came to take a look. Jung Yoon had no extra expression or gratitude for my kindness, her face cold and distant. At that moment, Shen Ji's work phone rang urgently, urging him to go back to the company immediately. He patted my hand lightly, his tone tired. The doctor will come for a routine checkup later. Please help take care of the child for me for a while. I nodded silently and agreed. As soon as the ward door closed, Jang Yoon spoke abruptly. Her tone calm but firm. Yang Yang is only 4 years old. His whole world is only me, and my whole life is only him. We don't need a father, and we don't need a husband either. Don't treat everyone around you as your enemy. I said nothing in response. I knew her temperament well. She had always been independent and strong, never willing to accept charity or help from others easily. Back when she was dating Shenzai, outsiders gossiped that she was clinging to the wealthy young master for money and status, but she had never taken a single cent from Shenzai, never relied on the Shen family as power for anything. Later, when marriage was on the horizon, everyone thought she would finally climb the social ladder and live a prosperous life. But she chose to break up decisively and disappear without a trace. Now she had come back begging only for her child's life. I knew she must have tried every possible method before coming to find Shenzai. But understanding did not mean I did not feel uncomfortable and sad in my heart. A few days later was my birthday, the first birthday I would spend with Shenzai after our marriage. Knowing he had been running around tiredly contacting famous doctors for Yang Yang, I specially booked a table at his favorite high-end restaurant and sent him a message to invite him to celebrate with me. I waited from sunset until late at night, watching all the other guests come and go, watching the moon hang high in the dark sky. In the end, all I heard was the cold system notification: the number you dialed is temporarily unavailable. The restaurant closed its doors one after another. I walked aimlessly alone on the cold night street, my heart empty and cold.